Sister M. McMullen, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles. Today we are going to make the spaghetti squash recipe. Alright, so the first step that we will use today will be to take the squash, and I already cut the end off, which is this end. So I cut that off so that I could stand it and cut it in half. So to cut it in half, if it's too hard, you can put it in the microwave for about 2 or 3 minutes. But I chose a smaller one so that I could cut. So if you have a chef knife, use it. If not, use the sharpest, heaviest one that you have. All right, now I have the 2 halves, and in the halves you have seeds and pulp. So the next step is to remove those seeds and pulp. Now I'm removing these and discarding them. But normally what I do, if it's a good squash and it's organic, so it's not GMO, I will soak some of these seeds and pulp for a day or 2 in a little bit of water. Then I'll dry them out and put them away for the next season and use those seeds over. If you find it hard to scrape out the inside, you can also use a grapefruit spoon if you have one and get the rest of the pulp out. So I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in each half, brush it around so I have the whole thing coated. Then I will put it on a microwave dish and salt and pepper it. You can tell I like pepper. All right. Then you turn them over upside down. And I put them in the microwave and cook them, testing them every 5 minutes. For me to cook this took 20 minutes. If you have a high wattage, yours may take 10 minutes. 10, 15, 20. All right, so you can see how I can easily prick it. The other one, I couldn't even begin to do that. So now what I do is I take them out of this dish, and using a fork, I will go long strands. All recipes start at this point. They start with the idea that you already have cooked your squash and it's in strands and in a dish ready to go. Most people don't cook squash because they're afraid of how to do it, and that's why I'm showing you an easy method with the microwave. You can do this same thing in the oven, and if you're willing to spend a whole hour, you have a sweeter taste. But most people, by the time you add seasonings, don't notice the taste. If I wanted to just serve it as a side dish, I mix some soft butter in, about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and I like to add a little basil. And here I'm just using some fresh from my garden that I already dried out. The butter and cheese. Then I would mix all of these things up and then put them into a serving bowl and serve them. So that is when you're doing it as a side dish. So because of time shortage, what I'm going to do is show you 2 other recipes. One I'll show you and one I'll demonstrate. Okay, I can take that same squash that is already cooked, add some marinara sauce, some fresh basil, some oregano, and maybe a little seasoned salt. Mix that up, and I can serve it that way if it's meatless. Or I can add little meatballs or ground beef that I've already fixed and add that to it. And then always end it with like a half a cup of Parmesan. So that would be one entree. What I'm going to show you is a recipe for shrimp entree. I thought before I begin that I would show you an easy way of chopping basil. Here I will take like 3 or 4 of them and I just roll them. And you can do this with a pair of scissors or you can do it with a knife. And at the end, I will add a few tomatoes. For this recipe, I'm going to start by adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil to my skillet. And then I will add the shrimp and the onions. And for the shrimp, it will depend on the size of a squash how much you use. So I usually say from a half to a pound. And I'm just using a half here. Now I will add onions to this. And so the shrimp and onions will cook together for about 3 to 4 minutes while the shrimp becomes translucent. So as you can see, the shrimp is pink now and the onions are cooked. And so at this stage, I will add the juice of 1 lemon. And I use my hand here to make sure I catch any extra seeds that I missed, which I have a few. I will add my basil, and I am adding 1/4 of a teaspoon of red pepper. If you don't want to use red pepper, you can use a couple of splashes of any kind of hot sauce. That's up to you. All right. Now, the next step will be to add the squash. So because the squash has been sitting out, it needs to heat. And so mixing everything in together will heat it up. And then my last step will be to serve it with either parmesan or feta cheese or mozzarella, you choose. I'm using parmesan, grated parmesan, because I happen to have it in the house. So it's up to you what you would like to use. I'm going to add a few cherry tomatoes from our garden, just to spice it up a little bit in looks. All right. So this is warm enough now. The tomatoes have been added, and so it is ready to serve. So I'm going to put it into my serving dish. And then I'll top it with my cheese. And so this is my finished dish. It's the shrimp squash dish.